Hey there, welcome to Board Game Barrister, our local game shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm Andy, and I'm here with Nick, and today we're talking RADLANDS, a really cool, strictly two-player game, all contained in one box, where we're going to go to a really rad post-apocalyptic future and try to destroy each other's bases. Let's get into it. Welcome to RADLANDS, a card game that takes place in a post-apocalyptic future where two warring tribes are out to take each other's water. The way you're going to win in this game is by destroying all three of your opponent's camp cards. You're going to set your three camps up side by side like this in three columns, and we're going to be playing more cards out toward the opponent in those columns. Each player is going to get 3 water tokens as well as 3 backup water tokens. And on the side of all of their camps, they're going to have a Raiders card and a water silo card. Then we shuffle our draw pile, and each player starts the game by drawing the number of cards shown on all of the black rectangles on their camp cards. So I have 0, 2, and 0 here, meaning we're going to start with 2 cards in hand. The opposing player has 1, 1, and 1, and starts with 3. One player is going to take a water tile and flip it, and if it comes up water side up, that means they're our first player. On their first turn, our first player is going to start out with a replenish step where they draw a card and they get access to 1 water token. From now on, for the rest of the game, each player is going to get all 3 of their water tokens to start each turn. But to balance this first part of the game, the first player only gets 1 water resource to start. Water is going to pay for most of the different things you want to do during your turn. It's just a matter of finding the cleverest ways to use that water and the ways that will help you on your eventual goal of destroying your opponent's camps. Let's start by taking a closer look at a camp card. Camp cards are always going to have a name and 1 or more abilities down along the bottom. Those abilities will always have a water cost, so in the case of our railgun, we have an ability that costs 2 water to use, and when we spend that 2 water, we get access to this ability here, which means we get to do damage. And damage can be dealt to an unprotected enemy or an unprotected enemy camp. The next 2 types of cards we're going to look at are people and events, both of which you'll play out of your hands for their water cost. First, we have a person. This one is an assassin, and the person's water cost is always right next to their name, so the assassin costs 1 water to play. Most people are going to have an ability or a trait or both, and in the case of this card, we have an ability, and just like with our camp's abilities, it has a water cost as well as an effect. Traits on people cards look like this. It's text in little green brackets, and this will either be an effect that takes place when you first play the card, or an ongoing effect that is permanently in place as long as this card is on the table. And the last thing you're going to see on a person card is their junk effect up here in the top left corner. Many people cards you'll be playing out onto the table for their water cost, but in some cases, instead of actually playing that card, you will want to instead junk that card by discarding it, which gives you the effect of that symbol in the corner immediately and at no cost except for that discard of the card. Like we discussed at the beginning, we're going to be playing in 3 columns extending toward our opponents. The person or camp that's farthest forward toward your opponent in each of those 3 columns is considered to be unprotected, and they're protecting everything behind them in that column. Using the damage effect on a person or camp is going to turn them sideways, and if they take 1 more damage effect, that will destroy them. A damaged person is no longer able to activate its abilities on its card, but a damaged camp can continue to use its abilities. The draw deck is full of both people and events. They have some similarities, but at their core they work in very different ways. You'll notice that an event has a name, it has a water cost, and it even has a junk ability, just like people cards do. But when you play an event for its cost, instead of entering play in the normal columns that we are competing in, it will instead go into your events column in the space indicated by this tiny bomb icon here. Out here in your play area, you've got 3 different event spaces, and at the beginning of each of your turns, before you draw your card and gain your water for the turn, you're first going to advance all of the events in your events track 1 space toward your opponent. That means 3s will move into the 2 space, 2s will move into the 1, and 1s, instead of moving into a 0 space, finally take their effect. The first time you activate this raid symbol, you're going to take that raid card you had sitting next to your play area since the beginning of the game, and you're going to flip it to its Raiders side in the 2 space on your event track. Now for the most part, the Raiders card works just like a normal event. At the beginning of every turn, you're going to advance it along your events track just like any other event, and when it reaches the 0 space, it's going to take its effect, which is to damage one of your opponent's camps of their choice. But the additional effect of the Raiders event is that every time you activate a raid logo, you can speed up this event along its track. Hey folks, sorry to interrupt, this is just a 15-second reminder that we're a small team of board game lovers running an actual board game shop here in Wisconsin. If you like what we do, you can support us directly by shopping with us online or by stopping in the next time you're in our area. Thank you! Alright, back to your video. Beside your raid card, you've got your water silo card. The water silo is important because at the end of each of your turns, any water you haven't spent is discarded. There's no way to hold it over for a future turn, except to use your water silo to store exactly 1 water. Anytime you'd like, you can pay a water to add the water silo card into your hand, and you can see here that the junk effect of the water silo is to gain a water. You'll continue to swap turns back and forth this way until somebody ends the game by destroying their opponent's 3rd and final camp. There are plenty more nuances in this game and tons more cards we didn't take a look at, but now you know the basics of how to sit down and get started, and a lot of those nuances shake out in your first playthrough as questions come up. It was a really fascinating game to sit down to, because you're going to sit down to it and it's going to resemble other card games you might have played. If you've played trading card games or collectible card games in the past, there is I'm putting guys down on the table, they're going to stand in rows ready to kind of defend each other or defend my camps, but that's where the similarities stop entirely. There is no way to directly send your troops to attack into your enemy lines. Card draw mechanics are very few and far between because every card has this free resource on it that you can just immediately get free stuff for spending. So the economy of a card is very different, and most of the economy in the game comes out of your limited water resource.
I like that both players are drawing from the same deck, so there's no like, oh, you had the better stacked deck, or it's just, nope, you get what you get.
Yeah, and we were talking about how, like, the only way to win this game is to be reactive. You have to be able to roll with whatever the game hands you, and then find a way to win with that stuff, starting from before the game's even begun when you're picking your camps for the game, because where we played with the starting camps, which is a preset 3 camps and 3 camps on either side of the board, there's a deck of over 30 camps, and you're only going to use a total of 12 of those, split 6 and 6 between each player at the beginning of the game, and each player is going to then build a starting plan by choosing 3 of their 6 and using those as their camps for the game. So even before you've started to draw cards and see what sort of weapons you'll have available to you, you're building out of what abilities do I want consistent access to until they get destroyed by my opponent.
Right. It was a little slow to learn because of the amount of iconography involved, but it's intuitive once you get it. I think that damage and destroy and injure were the biggest ones that I had. Those were the toughest ones for me to wrap my head around, the difference between them all. But yeah, drawing, restoring, gaining punks, rating, all that is really, really easy to see the icon for. But yeah, it's because of having to check the card and see what they do for the first 5 minutes of the game. That slowed it down at the beginning. But yeah, once we know what it all means, it goes really quick.
And I just think they nailed it as far as a theme. You got this watercolor pinks and oranges future where all these punks in goggles are going at it on this kind of fast-moving desert environment, and the pace at which the board will change reflects that. And the actual ways that the components interact with the game reflect that as well. They didn't pack the box with a ton of extra stuff. There's not a separate deck of punk cards you're going to use. They very cleverly incorporated how to use a face-down card as a punk that then can be brought back into your hand in the future, like Nick was doing a lot during our game. So from start to finish, the design of the game in its mechanics and its art and the way that it all comes together on the table was also just really well thought out. Like, I have no complaints about this game after our first playthrough. If you want another 2-player game in a small box that is packed with a ton of really good content, Sail was an amazing game. It's cooperative, so if you like the idea of working with the person you're sitting at the table with rather than against, highly suggest that one. Check out that video now. For the time being, we really appreciate you joining us for this video. You can hit that like button, leave a comment. We love reading those. Subscribe to see new videos every week when we post them, and check out our online store where you're going to find Radlands and a bunch of other really cool stuff. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you next time.